This is how Beyond the Back Four broke down Liverpool's late 1-0 escape at Burnley.
We're going to move on to Liverpool now, but I'm going to introduce Liverpool with a stat about Arsenal as we've been comparing the two sides. Back in November 2021, Arsenal went on a 4-game run that stretched into December, in which they won 4 consecutive home games without conceding a goal. They are currently on a run of 3 home games in the Premier League, winning without conceding a goal. Liverpool, by contrast, Burnley slightly aside, have conceded a lot of goals so far this season. They are slightly different teams. What do we make of Liverpool? Were they better than Burnley? Did they deserve the win? Or was it a complete fluke that they got that penalty and managed to get 3 points?
I think you've got to give credit to Burnley. I mean, Burnley had a terrible start to the season. They looked like relegation fodder against Tottenham in their opening game. Then they went to Sunderland and won. They played well against United, and it was a lot of fun, kind of poked at United for that poor performance. And by the same token, not enough credit was given to Burnley for actually playing quite well. And they continued to play quite well against Liverpool. And they would have been well deserving of a point. Liverpool did well, similar to how United ground it out with a penalty in that week. So I think you kind of got to give Liverpool a bit of credit for kind of getting the result. But it was a silly mistake from Hannibal, which just ended up costing them the game.
Do you think it comes, Graham, those moments where, he just turns and it hits him in the elbow? On another day, it might have just whistled past him. They were defending for so long, just that slight lapse in focus and judgment.
I thought it was a strange one where, with very few of the penalty decisions we've seen with VAR and very recently that they were in question, that was he turned his elbow to the ball. It was actually nailed on handball. We didn't even need VAR to do it. I thought it was, as Dan said, it was a head scratcher, a very strange moment, and the former United man doing Liverpool a huge favour there, because that ball, we don't know what was going to happen with that ball from Pongdu. It could have gone anywhere. So, I just think this whole thing is very ominous for the rest of the Premier League. Liverpool are really getting used to this system. People are not really appreciating this is a real change of system for Liverpool. From 4-3-3 we saw last season, they're really going for that 4-2-3-1 now, and it's really interesting. And I think it suits some players, but other players it isn't really. And they're taking time to adapt to it. I think they will. I said they haven't got a first gear and they're winning every game. It's really ominous for the rest of the Premier League and Europe.
There's still a lot of work they've got to do in terms of integrating Isak and Ekitike together. They're still working on getting the most out of the fullbacks, Frimpong and Kirkes, who were substituted early against Burnley. So I think there's still a lot of tweaks that Slot wants to make, and I'm not quite sure he's quite perfected exactly what he wants out of them, because they probably didn't come into the summer saying, right, we're going to sign Ekitike and Isak. That's kind of an opportunity which presented itself. But it's good. It's a great problem to have.
I think it's the midfield option, which is really interesting. And Gravenberch, he was I literally voted for him for Football of the Year. He's working overtime in there. It's not dissimilar what we'll come to with Manchester United. That midfield is a bit of an issue. Playing that double pivot, I don't think suits McAllister. It doesn't lend itself to Szoboszlai either. And I think they've got an issue there going forward. Not quite as bad as what United have got, but I think there's an issue there where they may look for another CDM in there. I think Curtis Jones can obviously do a job, but I think when you're relying on those two players in there to hold things together, with your full-backs going forward and your front four now, as it is rather than front three, I think the midfield's an interesting option there for Slot.
Well, I think it must be concerning for the rest of the Premier League that Liverpool are the first side in Premier League history to score a winning goal in the final 10 minutes or later of a Premier League game. It's never happened 4 times in a row. And this is happening right at the start of the season, whilst the team are very clearly getting used to a new system. So the last season we saw Arne Slot just slightly tinker what Jurgen Klopp had been doing, but now it's a different team and he's really putting his thumbprints on it and making sure people see it. This is his Liverpool side. And yet, while they're learning it, they're still winning games and winning them in the way that historically you point to and go, well, that's what champions do. They find a way to win.
Late goals are no fluke. Individually, yes. But consistent late goals, we see it with Sir Alex Ferguson's side. That's a trait. That's a mental strength of a team, quality putting teams under pressure. And as you saw with Burnley, eventually it forced a mistake, all that possession and attacking dominance in the final third.
Yeah, I've got a great stat for you about Liverpool. Liverpool scored 47 goals in the 90th minute or later, meaning they're 13 more than any other side in Premier League history.
You knew it was coming, didn't you, that late one?
Especially in the 4 minutes. But also you must feel that it's like if you're playing for Burnley. They must also think that. The crowd think that. It becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, probably haunted by the penalty at United the previous weekend as well. I think for their sake, probably glad it wasn't the same player.
What do you think we can expect as this Liverpool side start to adapt to their new formation, their slightly new system? Do you think there are players that people think of as, oh, well, he's always in the team, that we might start missing out?
I think there's going to be some changes. Probably the challenger, as Graham alluded to, is the two strikers with Isak and Ekitike. Is then where does then Cody Gakpo fill in? You're obviously going to have Salah in the side, Gakpo maybe on the left, but then are you going to really go with 4 forwards all the time, or are you going to revert to more of a 3 midfielders and three up front? Are you going to play one of the forwards wide? So there's going to be some changes, and that might depend on personnel available. It might depend on matchups, but good problem for them to have. But I think they're still to settle on the best 11.
Well, with Isak playing, regardless of what happens with Ekitike, what do you think, Graham, is the future for Mo Salah? Because in every other iteration of a Liverpool side, I mean, Firmino was the original number 9 when Salah first came to prominence as a Liverpool player. They haven't had a proper number 9, a goal scorer like Alexander Isak is. So that's given Salah room and opportunity to be the man who scores the goals, whereas it's not going to be his responsibility. And so presumably his positioning will be lessened in terms of chances created because it's someone else's job now.
Yeah, but I think that's a good thing. I think we'll see it with a squad where Salah won't have to play every single minute of every season like he has previously. We've got the likes of Wirtz coming into the system now. Rio Naguma, who looks a little superstar. Whenever he comes on, he's impactful, and we're going to see him getting more game time. I think it just sums up the quality of Liverpool's squad, where we'll start seeing some rotation where Mo Salah will be on the bench at times. But hey, if it means Ekitike, Gakpo, and Isaac are the front 3, maybe so, or even Wirtz in there as well. The options Liverpool have now are quite staggering. They're as good as anything in world football.
We're going to move on to Manchester United, but before I do, just a really quick answer. Knowing that Liverpool are going to change and Salah could leave again at the end of the season, we're not sure what the future will be. He's on 188 Premier League goals. Will he reach 200?
Yes, I think he will this season. I would say 35 of those have been penalties, where he's just overtaken Andy Cole. Andy Cole, 1 of those were penalties. So it's just an interesting comparison.
See the full chat on Liverpool plus the rest of the weekend's Premier League action only on Beyond the Back Four.